Excessive alcohol consumption is one of the leading causes of preventable death in the United States. The 2015 National Survey on Drug Use and Health found that about 16 million Americans have alcohol use disorder, and it affects adolescents as well as adults. Until rather recently, this type of substance abuse was thought to be the result of a flaw in character or weakness in fortitude. Now, scientific evidence has shown us that a problem with alcohol can be traced to a genetic variation. Alcohol use disorder, also known as alcohol dependence or alcoholism, can have many different causes. Environmental and social influences can be a factor. These factors can include depression or other psychiatric disorders and certain psychological traits, including impulsivity and low self-esteem. More recently, however, research has found that alcohol use disorder can be linked to mutations in many genes. These genes have a range of effects in the body, including neuron function, cell signaling, and alcohol and glucose metabolism. One such gene is the GABA2 gene. This gene sequence is located at position 12 on the short P arm of chromosome 4. Alcohol use disorder is more common if a person's family has a history of alcohol dependence. This can likely be attributed to an exposure to substance-abusive lifestyles and habits, for one thing. On a genetic level, mutations are shown to be passed down to successive generations. There is no specific pattern of inheritance, but clear heredity of the disorder can be observed. Studies have shown a 25 to 50% lifetime risk for sons and brothers of severely alcoholic men. Further studies showed the ability to breed animals for alcohol preference, an increased frequency with the increase of genetic identicalness in twins, and a tendency for sons to follow their biological father's alcohol dependence, even when raised by a different father. Two separate heritable types of alcoholism were later found. One that typically arises after 25 years of age, affects both men and women, and needs environmental effects for the affectation to be expressed, and one that typically arises before 25, is seldom found in women, and causes the affected person to be compelled to abuse alcohol and exhibit aggressive and antisocial behavior. The genes that cause a vulnerability to alcohol use disorder are commonly associated with two functions in the body. Many of these genes control the metabolism of alcohol in the body. Some variables of these genes cause specific discomfort when alcohol is consumed. For these people, such as those of Asian or Jewish descent, the risk of alcohol use disorder is reduced. GABA2 belongs to a different group of genes that are involved in neurotransmitter pathways and control the signals being sent between neurons in the nervous system. GABA2 codes GABA proteins that are used for chloride channels in the brain. It is not known exactly how the gene affects alcoholism susceptibility, but it is speculated that GABA2 might influence susceptibility to alcohol dependence by modulating the level of neural excitation. Alcohol use disorder can be characterized by a number of symptoms. People suffering from the disease have a compulsion to drink and an inability to then stop. Alcohol addicts often build up a tolerance to the substance, which necessitates increased amounts of alcohol consumption over time. Long-time abusers of alcohol can become dependent and show signs of withdrawal once deprived of it. Withdrawal symptoms can include sleep difficulty, irritability, jumpiness, headache, depression, and many more. Such heavy drinking also poses a risk for alcohol poisoning. Problems associated with this are trouble breathing, an affected heart rate, vomiting, seizures, a low body temperature, and others. Alcohol poisoning can ultimately result in a coma, brain damage, or even death if not treated quickly. Alcohol can affect every organ in the body, and when consumed in excess, can inflict real damage. Alcohol use disorder can increase cholesterol and triglyceride levels, raise the risk of diabetes, and elevate blood pressure. Chronic alcohol abuse can cause arterial fibrillation in the heart, gastritis in the stomach, cirrhosis in the liver, dehydration from the kidneys, pancreatitis in the pancreas, osteoporosis in the bones, neuropathy in the brain, and many other acute and chronic health problems. There are many treatment options available for alcohol use disorder. Genetic tests can be taken to determine whether or not the gene of interest, in this case GABR2, is mutated. The first test is called GABR2, and the second test is called EpiSeq Comprehensive Sequence Analysis for Epilepsy and Seizure Disorders. Both tests check for deletions and duplications, and they sequence the entire coding region. Other treatment methods include both medicine and behavioral therapies. Medications are prescribed in order to manage the symptoms and are often supplemented with a professional medical detox program. Disulfiram triggers unpleasant symptoms when alcohol is consumed. Naltrexone inhibits the pleasurable response and craving for alcohol. Acamprosate also reduces one's cravings for alcohol. Gabapentin is a recently discovered medication that has shown promise in clinical studies. The drug is currently used as a painkiller. Evidence from single-site studies lends support to the safety and efficacy of gabapentin as a novel treatment for alcohol use disorder, with unique benefits for alcohol-related insomnia and negative effect relative to available treatments. Behavioral therapy can include a support group like Alcoholics Anonymous or a residential rehab center. The various behavioral therapies include cognitive behavioral therapy, which teaches coping skills, motivational enhancement therapy, which helps build confidence and motivation to change, marital and family counseling, which tries to repair and improve family relationships, and brief interventions, which are brief, small counseling sessions. The financial burden suffered from alcohol use disorder can be a large one. While struggling with the disease, lots of money is often spent on the alcohol alone in order to satisfy the compulsive hunger of the affected person. Money is also usually spent paying for damages caused by the impaired individual or lost because of reduced performance at work. If undergoing treatment, further costs are spent to cover medication and behavioral therapists. Rehab centers usually require full-time residency for a period of sometimes several months. However, the long-term benefits of therapy and healing likely outweigh the costs. Living with a person facing alcohol use disorder can be quite difficult. The disease can have major effects on health, social, and economic dynamics, and it can endanger affected individuals and others through behaviors prompted by impaired decision-making and lowered inhibitions, such as aggression, unprotected sex, or driving while intoxicated. The behaviors and personality of an alcoholic can often have emotional and mental impacts on friends and loved ones. Help can be received in a number of ways. A person struggling with alcohol use disorder and is seeking treatment can reach out to their primary care physician. They can either prescribe medication or recommend a special counselor. Alcoholics Anonymous is also a non-judgmental support group that is free and open to the public. The National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, NCADD, is a bountiful resource. They offer more information on the disease, as well as aid in locating help centers or specialists.